My name is Danstan Omari. Today we are on Helicopter News, the segment called Explainer, and our topic this weekend is about pro bono lawyering. What is pro bono lawyering? Enjoy the explainer. The law as it is demands that if you are charged with the offense of murder, you must be represented by an advocate. These advocates can be, one, an accused person having to pay for an advocate of their own choice, or if that accused person in the offense of murder does not have an advocate, it is the duty of the state, that is the judiciary, to appoint a pro bono advocate to represent that accused person. So the state will pay for the services of an advocate who will be hired on pro bono services. That advocate will represent an accused person in the offense of murder till the case is concluded, because that is the mandatory requirement of the law. Number two, the law also demands that children who are in conflict with the law must have an advocate representing them. If one does not have the capacity to hire an advocate, the judiciary will appoint an advocate to represent a child in the matters of a conflict with the law. So that is the two times when the judiciary is mandated by the law to appoint an advocate. The third point of pro bono lawyering is the Law Society of Kenya. The Law Society of Kenya, under Section 4 of the LSK Act, can appoint a pro bono advocate to represent a client for free, to represent an accused person for free, to represent any person who has matters in this court. And that is why today we are doing our show outside Milimani Law Courts. So the Law of Society of Kenya can appoint that person. The fourth group of advocates are what you call the civil society advocates. Advocates from, for example, Katiba Institute, Sheria Mtaani, advocates from CRU, advocates from FIDA. These are civil society groups that their mandate is to protect and defend those ones who have problems with the law. So those ones also can appoint an advocate. They meet small costs and represent that person in court without paying anybody that advocate fees. Sixth is the lawyers themselves, the advocates under their law firms. For example, Danstan Omari and Associates. I can take up a matter, represent a client for free without paying anything. So the lawyers themselves can represent a person who has a case in court for free as a corporate social responsibility. Equally, the Law Society of Kenya every year conducts what you call a week, a whole week, representing people for free and providing answers to problems. We normally have our clinics outside Milimani Law Courts and all other courts in the country. Lastly, A judge or a magistrate, if in the course of trial finds out that there is an accused person who has been brought to court, one who is a child, vulnerable, without knowledge of the law, two, who is an adult but cannot be able to comprehend what is proceeding in court, a judicial officer, that is a judge or a magistrate, can appoint an advocate to represent that person in court, and that advocate will not be paid any amount by the person who the judge or the magistrate represented that. The basis of this is to try and reach out to the members of the public. If you have matters that are complex, that you cannot be able to understand, that you cannot be able to represent yourself, Cortex Helicopter, so explainer, has told you where you can walk to. Walk to the Law Society of Kenya offices, walk to civil society offices, FIDA takes cases concerning women, Sheria Mtaani takes cases concerning children in conflict with the law, Katiba Institute takes matters that are where government has violated the rights of the citizens. Walk to the judiciary and in court and say you cannot be able to represent yourself. The judge or the magistrate can request an advocate to proceed. Walk to law firms, see the advocates individually and explain your problem and request for them to represent you for pro bono services. When you are represented, there is what you call the fees to be paid to the judiciary. When you cannot afford court filing fees, which sometimes is expensive, and you are being represented by pro bono lawyers, the pro bono lawyer can make an application that you are a pauper, and they will request the judiciary, the judge, to waive those fees that is paid to the judiciary. Remember, the judiciary collects court filing fees, and sometimes the court filing fees can be as expensive as 75,000 shillings to file a case. So if an application for pauper brief is made, the judiciary can waive and you file your cases without paying any government fees, and your case will proceed and you get the proceedings for free and the judgment for free. That is the explainer for this weekend, where we have empowered those who do not have the amount to pay lawyers, because last week we did discuss how advocates charge their fees. It is provided for the advocate's remuneration order, and it can be very expensive. To avoid that, you can get legal services through what is called the pro bono lawyers, who are paid either by government, paid by the Law Society of Kenya, or the advocates themselves do that for free. Thank you very much for joining Court Helicopter News Explainer. Asante sana.